There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable yet undeniable. Women are not drawn to the nice guy, the perfect guy, or the agreeable guy. They're drawn to the bold one. The man who moves with intention. The man who speaks with clarity. The man who isn't afraid to stand alone if that's what integrity requires. Most men chase affection. But the bold man, he attracts it, effortlessly. Because boldness isn't about being loud. It's about being certain. Certain in who you are, what you want, and what you refuse to tolerate. If you've ever wondered why some men barely try and women still fall for them, it's because they embody a type of strength that cannot be faked. Today, we're going to uncover that strength. And the truth behind becoming the kind of man women cannot forget. Welcome to the Stoic Love Wisdom channel. This is where we share lessons about love, real-life experiences and tips for building strong relationships. In today's video, I will share with you, want to captivate women? Become a bold guy. These may be things you have never thought of. If you are looking for a deeper understanding of love and how to develop relationships, don't miss this video. Before watching the video, find a quiet space and put on your headphones to feel every word I am about to share. Relax and enjoy this journey with me. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's begin. Part 1, the courage to stand alone. The foundation of a bold man. I've lived long enough to understand one simple truth. A man who wants a woman to admire him must first become a man who can stand alone without trembling. Most men chase women the way a starving dog chases scraps, desperate, noisy, frantic. They think affection is earned by pleasing, by proving, by constantly showing that they are good enough. But I'll tell you something most men never learn until life has already chewed them up. Women don't fall for the man who bends. They fall for the man who stands. Boldness is not arrogance. Boldness is not loudness. Boldness is not ego. Boldness is the quiet, steady fire of a man who knows who he is. And refuses to shrink just because someone might walk away. You see, a woman can sense when a man cannot bear his own company. She smells it in the silence between his words, in the way he waits for validation, in the way he trembles each time she pulls back. A bold man is different. He doesn't chase. He moves. He doesn't plead. He acts. He doesn't fear losing someone who isn't meant for him. He simply continues forward with calm certainty. Stoicism has taught me this. A man who needs nothing attracts everything. A man who depends on no one becomes the gravitational center of every room he enters. Women don't follow him because he demands it, they follow because they feel the strength of a man who governs himself. Let me tell you a story from my younger years, before I had learned these lessons the hard way. There was a woman I once admired, beautiful, intelligent, magnetic in a way that could tilt the room. Like any inexperienced man, I tried to win her by being agreeable. I laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. I compromised on things that mattered to me. I tried to be there all the time, thinking availability equaled affection. She liked me, yes. But she never wanted me. There's a difference. Then one day, she met a man who didn't try at all. He wasn't rude, he wasn't dismissive, he simply lived on his own axis. He didn't shift to match her energy, she shifted to match his. He didn't over-explain himself, his presence spoke for him. He didn't worry about keeping her interested, he was too busy living a life worth being part of. And it was then I understood. Women are drawn to bold men because bold men are rooted. A woman wants to feel the presence of a man who knows where he is going, not because she wants to follow blindly, but because it gives her the freedom to trust the journey. A bold man isn't controlled by emotions, but he's not a stone either. He feels deeply but expresses intentionally. He chooses his reactions. He speaks when needed and stays silent when silence holds more power. Stoicism isn't about killing passion. It's about mastering it. And in love, mastery is magnetism. If you want a woman to admire you, to respect you, to desire you in ways you've never experienced, begin with this. Become a man who does not crumble. Not under pressure, not under temptation, not under the fear of being alone. A man who walks away from disrespect is bold. A man who maintains boundaries is bold. A man who states his intentions clearly, without stuttering, without disguising desire in nervous charm, is bold. A man who refuses to be manipulated by attention or the lack of it. He is bold. But the rarest boldness of all? Emotional independence. The ability to care without collapsing. To love without losing yourself. To desire without becoming enslaved to that desire. When a woman meets a man like that, she feels something ancient awaken in her. She leans into his calm. She mirrors his certainty. She tests his strength at first, not out of malice, but out of instinct. And when she sees he doesn't break, when she feels he is capable of holding both himself and her emotions with steady hands, that's when she melts for him. Not because he conquered her, but because he conquered himself. And let me tell you something most men never hear. Boldness is a habit, not an event. It begins in the smallest actions. Saying no when you mean no. Walking away from drama. Setting boundaries with grace instead of fear. Pursuing your purpose with or without applause. Maintaining standards in the face of beauty. Speaking your truth without trembling. These are not tricks to attract women. These are the building blocks of a man who can lead a relationship rather than be carried by it. Before you try to be bold with women, learn to be bold with yourself. Learn to face your own desires without shame. Learn to sit with your own loneliness without rushing to fill it. Learn to build a life you respect. Even if no one is watching. The bold man is not born. He is forged. He is tested. He is chosen by himself. And it is that man, the forged one, the centered one, the one who stands alone with quiet confidence. He is the man women become mesmerized by. Love, like a mirror that reflects ourselves. When you learn to love, you are also learning to look back at yourself. What are your strengths? What are the wounds that need to be healed? And understanding yourself will help you understand the other person more deeply. That is also the reason I share on this channel, to help you see love as a journey to nurture your soul. If you find these things meaningful, click like to spread that value. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, don't forget to click subscribe with the notification bell, so we can always accompany each other in the next lessons. Leave a comment below, share your true feelings after listening to this part. Who knows, your little story may touch the heart of someone in need. Now, let's continue on the next part of this journey. Part 2, Bold Masculinity, the Art of Directness and Intent. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must decide what kind of presence he wants to bring into the world. A hesitant shadow, or a man of deliberate intention. If part 1 is about learning to stand alone, then part 2 is about learning to move with purpose, especially with women. Because let me tell you something most men misunderstand. A bold man doesn't confuse women. A bold man clarifies. Women are not as complicated as weak men claim. They are intuitive, yes, sensitive to energy, aware of shifts in tone, and attuned to a man's emotional backbone. But they are not impossible puzzles. What confuses them is not masculinity, it's the lack of it. The absence of direction. The timid dance of a man too scared to show what he really wants. A woman cannot follow a man who doesn't know where he's walking. She cannot connect deeply with a man who hides behind politeness. And she cannot desire a man who treats attraction like a crime he must apologize for. Bold masculinity begins with this. To want something without shame. Not in a predatory way. Not in a needy way. But in a grounded, calm, intentional way. When you desire a woman, don't disguise it in vague conversations or endless compliments. Every inexperienced man does that. He tiptoes around his attraction, hoping she will magically decode his feelings and reward him for his subtlety. That's not boldness. That's fear dressed as strategy. A bold man speaks clearly. He looks her in the eye. He states his interest without trembling. Something as simple as, "I enjoy your presence. I'd like to get to know you better." Or even, "I find you incredibly attractive, and I'm interested in exploring that connection." Direct. Clean. Honest. A woman might blush, she might smile, she might test your sincerity, but she will never be confused. She will know exactly who you are and what you stand for. But here's the part that most men never master. Directness must be paired with detachment. Stoicism teaches that desire is not the enemy, attachment to outcome is. A bold man expresses his intent, but he does not cling to whether she accepts it or not. Because his worth does not fluctuate based on her response. His identity does not rise or fall according to someone's reaction. And this emotional independence, this calm confidence, it's intoxicating to a woman. Why? Because boldness is rare. Because honesty is rare. Because a man who can state what he wants without demanding it is a man she can trust. Let me share another lesson learned the hard way. Some years ago, I met a woman with a fire in her eyes. She was sharp, confident, and used to men stumbling over themselves trying to impress her. Most of them played the same game, subtle hints, uncertain messages, and half-hearted approaches. When I spoke to her, I didn't dance around anything. I told her directly what I felt. No poetry. No manipulation. Just the truth, delivered calmly. And she told me something I've never forgotten. "You're the first man who didn't make me guess." Think about that. The first man who didn't make her guess. Women live in a world of mixed signals. They are constantly analyzing tones, intentions, and hidden meanings. When a man communicates like a storm, direct, unmistakable, impossible to misinterpret, she feels relief. She feels clarity. She feels safe knowing she doesn't have to decode him. And safety is the foundation of desire. Directness does not mean aggression. It does not mean demanding a response. It does not mean forcing a connection. It means offering your truth with steady hands. And giving her the freedom to meet it or walk away. Bold intent is not about control. It's about leadership. It's about direction. It's about showing her the strength of a man who knows what he's about. But remember this. A man who expresses boldly must also act boldly. Your lifestyle, your habits, your actions must match the confidence in your words. There is no point speaking with fire if you live like wet wood. There is no point declaring your wants if the rest of your life whispers insecurity. A bold man invests in his purpose. He cultivates discipline. He maintains standards, in work, in health, in relationships. He does not bend his schedule around a woman he just met. He does not abandon his path for the promise of affection. Because purpose is the backbone of bold masculinity. Women feel it. They respect it. They are drawn to it like gravity. When you combine directness with purpose, clarity with calmness, desire with detachment, you become a rare kind of man. A man who doesn't chase attention. He commands it. A man who doesn't ask for permission to be masculine. He embodies it. And most importantly, a man who doesn't fear rejection. Because he knows that authenticity is worth more than approval. That is boldness. That is masculine intent. And that is how a man becomes unforgettable. Part 3, emotional mastery, the bold man's calm in chaos. If there is one trait that separates a bold man from the rest, it is not his muscles, not his money, not even his confidence. It is his emotional composure. That steady, unshakable calm he carries even when the world tries to pull him apart. Every man wants to be bold when life is easy. Anyone can stand tall when the sky is clear and nothing threatens his sense of control. But the true measure of a man, the measure women feel deep in their instincts, is how he holds himself when pressure tightens around him. A bold man does not collapse under emotions. He commands them. Not by suppressing, but by mastering. You see, men often misunderstand emotional strength. They think it means never feeling hurt, never feeling fear, never feeling doubt. But that isn't strength. That's numbness. And numbness creates cowardice, not courage. Real emotional strength is the ability to feel the full weight of emotion and remain sovereign over your response. A woman can sense the difference instantly. She knows when a man is ruled by impulse instead of intention. When he reacts instead of responds. When he uses anger to hide fear, or silence to hide insecurity. Women are deeply attuned to emotional energy. They read it the way sailors read the wind. And the bold man becomes magnetic because his emotional presence feels like solid ground, steady, grounded, unmoved by chaos. Let me tell you something earned through years of mistakes. A woman will test your emotions, not because she enjoys watching you struggle, but because she wants to know if your center is real. She wants to feel that your strength is not a mask. That you can withstand pressure without shattering. That you can hold both your emotions and hers without drowning. And these tests do not always come in obvious ways. Sometimes they arrive as sudden distance. Sometimes as sharp questions meant to pierce your ego. Sometimes as small storms of insecurity or emotion that she unconsciously releases just to see if you can remain steady. A weak man takes these tests personally. He becomes reactive. He chases harder. He argues out of fear. He tries to fix emotions that are not his to fix. But a bold man, he does what rare men do. He listens. He breathes. He stays anchored. He understands that emotional chaos is not an attack, it's an invitation. An invitation to show his inner strength. An invitation to create safety. An invitation to lead with calmness instead of panic. Stoicism teaches this beautifully. You cannot control the storm, but you can control the ship. And the man who controls his inner ship, his thoughts, his reactions, his disposition, becomes irresistible not because he's perfect, but because he's stable. Women don't want perfection. They want presence. A man who can be fully there without losing himself. A man whose energy does not spike wildly with every emotional shift. A man who can stay calm without becoming cold. And this calmness, this mastery, is not born overnight. It is forged through discipline. Through pausing before responding. Through choosing clarity over emotional noise. Through reminding yourself that no external situation, not beauty, not rejection, not conflict, not desire, has the right to dictate your inner world. When a man reaches that level of mastery, his presence becomes unmistakable. He enters a room differently. He speaks with intention. He moves with certainty. He radiates a kind of quiet authority that requires no explanation. A woman feels it before she understands it. She feels safer around him. She feels calmer. She feels drawn in by a gravity she cannot fully articulate. Because emotional mastery is a rare art among men today. Most men are slaves to their impulses. Lust pulls them. Fear drives them. Insecurity shapes them. Anger consumes them. But the bold man stands apart. He feels attraction. But he isn't controlled by it. He feels fear. But he makes decisions based on values, not anxiety. He feels desire. But maintains standards even when tempted to abandon them. He feels uncertainty. But he holds the line anyway. And this is what mesmerizes women. A man whose emotions exist, but do not dominate him. Not a stone. Not a robot. Not a cold, distant figure. But a man with a full heart and a disciplined spirit. A man who can sit with tension and not rush to escape it. A man who can hear difficult truths and not collapse. A man who can feel deeply but act deliberately. This is masculine emotional leadership. This is the core of boldness. This is the essence of a man who attracts women not by tricks, but by truth. A man who remains calm in chaos becomes a sanctuary in a world full of storms. And that, more than charm, more than beauty, more than words, is what women fall for. There are things in love, only when we take a step back, sit down quietly, can we truly understand. I share these stories not to teach you how to love, but so that you can find the answers for yourself. If what you just heard touches your heart, please click like as a way to spread this positive energy to more people. And remember to click subscribe, because there are many profound perspectives on love waiting for you in the next videos. Now, let's continue the remaining journey together, because the most precious things are sometimes at the end. Part 4, Bold Boundaries, Earning Respect Without Saying a Word. If emotional mastery is the backbone of a bold man, then boundaries are his armor. Not walls. Not defenses. But the sacred lines that define where his self-respect begins and where the world must adjust accordingly. Most men fail, not because they lack charm or intelligence, but because they lack the courage to hold the line. They yield too quickly. They bend too easily. They allow attraction to override standards, and fear to override dignity. But let me tell you a truth only learned through heartbreak and years of watching men crumble. A woman cannot love a man she does not respect. And she cannot respect a man who has no boundaries. Women feel boundaries the way they feel confidence, instantly. A man with boundaries communicates strength without uttering a single word. A man without them communicates desperation even if his mouth speaks confidence. Boundaries are not something you impose on others. They are something you embody within yourself. Let me give you an example. A man without boundaries rearranges his entire life the moment a woman gives him attention. He cancels plans. He ignores his purpose. He compromises values he once held firm. He trades his self-respect for the mere possibility of connection. A woman may enjoy the attention, yes. But desire? Respect? Attraction? Those evaporate the moment she senses he has lost himself in her. A bold man, however, lives differently. He keeps his commitments, to himself first. He honors his schedule, his mission, his responsibilities. He doesn't vanish into a woman's world, she is invited into his, and only when it aligns with his path. This kind of man doesn't need to declare his boundaries. They radiate through his actions. When he says no, he means it. When something violates his standards, he doesn't negotiate. He simply steps back. When he feels disrespected, he distances himself calmly, not loudly. When a woman pushes a line, he stands firm, not defensively, but confidently. And this firmness, this quiet refusal to betray himself, is what makes a woman pause, look at him differently, lean in with deeper curiosity. Because in that moment she realizes, this is not a man she can walk over. This is a man she can walk with. Women don't want to dominate men. They want to feel the edges of a man's strength. They want to sense that his integrity can withstand their beauty, their emotion, their presence. Here's a truth backed by every woman I've ever known. If she can move you too easily, she will lose interest. If she can break you too easily, she will lose trust. Boundaries are the structure upon which attraction is built. And Stoicism reinforces this beautifully. You do not control others, only your responses, your choices, your standards. A boundary is simply choosing your values over your impulses. Many men fear setting boundaries because they fear losing the woman. But a man who fears loss cannot be bold. He cannot lead. He cannot create the polarity that makes a woman feel secure. A bold man accepts this risk. If holding the line costs him a woman, then she was not meant for the man he is becoming. And that mindset transforms everything. Suddenly he stops overthinking. He stops pleasing. He stops performing. He stops negotiating with disrespect, whether subtle or obvious. Instead, he becomes very simple. This is who I am. This is what I tolerate. This is how I live. You may join me, but I will not abandon myself to keep you here. That kind of man becomes unforgettable. Let me share a story from my mid-30s. There was a woman, stunning, demanding, used to getting her way. Men before me bent instantly, she expected the same. But when she tested a boundary of mine, something small, but meaningful, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply said, that doesn't work for me, and continued with my life. She was shocked. Not offended. Shocked. Because a man who doesn't bend is rare. 3 days later, she came back, not with attitude, but with admiration. She said something I'll never forget. You're the first man who made me wonder if I crossed the line. That's the power of boundaries. Not to dominate. Not to control. But to command respect. A man becomes bold not by being loud, but by being unmovable in the right moments. Not by fighting, but by walking away. Not by trying to win, but by refusing to lose himself. And here is the silent magic. When a man respects himself deeply, women feel compelled to respect him in return. When a man protects his standards, women feel safe in his presence. When a man holds the line, a woman leans into it, not away from it. Boundaries, in their purest form, are not restrictions. They are invitations. An invitation for a woman to rise closer to the level of the man she desires. Not because he demands it, but because she wants to. Part 5, The Bold Lover, Presence, Passion, and the Power That Makes Women Melt. If you've come this far, you understand something most men never will. Boldness is not a performance. It's not a trick. It's not a mask you wear to get attention. Boldness is the natural expression of a man who knows himself. His values, his desires, his boundaries, and his emotions. But there is one final dimension of boldness that separates a man women admire from a man women ache for. Presence. Passion. A masculine energy so grounded it makes a woman feel desired and safe in the same breath. Most men get this wrong. They think being bold means being dominant all the time. Or acting detached. Or pretending to feel nothing. But a bold lover is not afraid of passion. He is not afraid of intensity. He is not afraid to fully show up in love as the man he is. Without shrinking, without chasing, and without losing himself. A bold lover knows this simple truth. A woman doesn't melt for the man who runs after her. Nor for the man who runs away. But for the man who stands firmly and invites her into his world with certainty. Presence is that certainty. Presence means you are there, fully. Not on your phone. Not in your fears. Not in your ego. Not calculating your next move. A bold man sees a woman with clarity. He listens with intention. And when he touches her, whether physically or emotionally, he does so with purpose, not hesitation. Presence is the masculine gift that awakens the feminine. When a woman feels a man's full attention, his calm but focused energy, her nervous system softens. She feels safe enough to let her guard down. Safe enough to be vulnerable. Safe enough to fall deeper into the connection. And passion. Passion is the fire that warms that safety. But passion, in the hands of an ungrounded man, becomes chaos. In the hands of a bold man, it becomes creation. Passion isn't loud. It isn't desperate. It isn't reckless. Passion is controlled intensity. The kind that says, I want you. I choose you. But I do not lose myself in the wanting. Women melt for that kind of desire. The steady, unapologetic, masculine desire of a man who is fully in control of himself. Because passion without discipline is insecurity. But passion with mastery is irresistible. Let me share something personal, one of those lessons whispered by life instead of books. There was a woman who once asked me, what makes a man unforgettable? I thought for a moment, then said, a man who is both safe in his strength and alive in his desire. She nodded slowly. Because that combination is rare. Most men are one or the other. Safe but passive. Strong but emotionally distant. Desiring but ungrounded. Grounded but cold. A bold man, a bold lover, is the synthesis of all that is masculine. Calm and fire. Structure and intensity. Stillness and pull. What does this look like in practice? It looks like a man who doesn't rush. A man who isn't afraid of silence. A man who looks at a woman in a way that says everything without forcing anything. A man whose touch is confident, not tentative. A man whose voice lowers, slows, steadies when things become intimate. A man whose presence makes a woman forget the noise of the world because she feels entirely seen. A bold lover is not trying to impress. He is expressing. Expressing the fullness of his masculinity without apology. And here's the irony, the beautiful, powerful irony. A man becomes a bold lover not by learning how to impress women, but by learning how to master himself. Everything begins within. Your discipline. Your emotional control. Your boundaries. Your sense of purpose. Your clarity of intent. Your stillness under pressure. Your ability to stand alone. When these pieces fall into place, a woman doesn't just feel attraction. She feels polarity. That deep magnetic pull between the masculine and feminine. She feels drawn. She feels safe. She feels awakened. She melts because your presence gives her space to soften. Your confidence gives her space to trust. And your boldness gives her space to surrender into the connection without fear. In the end, boldness is not about being fearless. It is about being courageous. It is about being the kind of man who leads with integrity, loves with intention, and lives with unshakable self-respect. A man who stands rooted in who he is, and invites the world, and the woman he desires, to meet him there. That is the bold man. That is the bold lover. And that is the kind of man women never forget. Conclusion. In the end, becoming a bold man has nothing to do with performing for women or chasing admiration. It is about forging yourself into someone you respect, someone whose presence carries weight, whose actions have intention, and whose heart remains steady no matter what storms come. A woman does not fall for boldness because it is loud, but because it is rooted. She melts for the man who stands firm in who he is. A man with purpose, with emotional mastery, with boundaries that protect his peace and elevate his standards. Boldness is not arrogance. It is self-command. It is knowing what you want and moving toward it without fear or desperation. It is living with clarity, speaking with intention, and loving with both strength and softness. A bold man does not need to convince anyone of his worth, he demonstrates it in how he lives. He listens deeply, acts decisively, and never bargains with his dignity in exchange for affection. He inspires trust because he trusts himself. He creates desire because he does not abandon his mission. He attracts love because he embodies presence, calm, grounded, masculine presence. When you become that man, the man who stands alone confidently, who speaks honestly, who leads with integrity. Women don't just notice you. They feel you. They lean toward your energy. They open themselves to your world. Because boldness is not a tactic. It is a transformation. And once you become that man, you no longer ask how to make women fall for you. They simply do. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. I hope you have found useful lessons about love and relationships. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. I really appreciate your support and will continue to bring valuable content in the next videos. Please continue to accompany me on my journey to learn about love and relationships. See you again and wish you happiness.